What's going on, friends and fam? Thank you so much for tuning into Every Day is a Saturday with me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey guys, this is a great episode, great interview. You're not going to want to miss this one. This guy is currently serving in the United States Marine Corps. Some of you may know him as SSgt Cruz. And if you have a TikTok account, you may know him as Jonas the Mad Hatter. Now, this guy has some great stories that he shared with us and some great experiences. Like I said, you're not going to want to miss it. He was a drill instructor. He's an air winger. He told us a lot of stuff about how the Marine Corps is today, about boot camp stories. I'm telling you, this is a good episode. Not going to want to miss it. So, buckle in and let's go. Simplify.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got Staff Sergeant Cruz of the United States Marine Corps on the phone with us, who's currently serving and kicking ass for this great nation. What's going on, bro?
Oh, nothing much, man. Nothing much. Just grinding every day.
Yeah, right. Every day, man. How? So, tell us about yourself and tell us when you ended up joining and what made you want to be a Marine. You know, all that good stuff. We got a lot of good story, a lot of questions for you, man, because you're a drill instructor. You're pretty popular on TikTok. You seem like you're quite the motivator and inspiration. So, tell us about yourself, man.
Yeah, go with the name on TikTok as Jonas the Mad Hatter, uh, Sasson Cruz. For those that know me personally in the Marine Corps, I joined back in 2011, and I'll go a little bit back on what made me join. Uh, I am originally a tilt rotor airframes mechanic. Work with the Ospreys. Uh, been in Miramar, um, Okie, Camp Pendleton. Did 3 years in MCRD San Diego, and now currently over here in Jacksonville, North Carolina at New River. So, pretty much run around wherever they have ospreys around the nation.
Well,
Uh,
that's a good part about being an air winger, man. You get to travel a lot. Not a lot of Marines get to travel as much as you've been. Dang.
yeah, I've had the fortunate opportunity to be able to stand up out of the 5 units I've been stand up for the squadron. So prior to them being Ospreys, there were CH-46s, which used to be Frogs Forever, for those old hard chargers. Pretty much hate the Osprey community because we took their jobs pretty much. And that was a very unique experience in itself. So, and then I got on my deployment with the Special MAGTF down in Kuwait. I got histed to become a drill instructor, and yeah, those were three amazing years. In the middle of it, which we got hit with COVID, which I imagine you got a lot of questions about that. Uh,
Absolutely,
but yeah,
definitely. Yeah, man. So yeah, for sure, I got a lot of questions in terms of how maybe it's changed and how much it's kind of stayed the same. Because the Marine Corps is known for its traditions, but I do know that they do change quite often. I mean, because when I was actually in, right around that 2000 2004 mark, we changed from going the old school, iron your camis, polish your boots, to the digis where, you didn't have to do that anymore. And as well as you didn't have to polish your boots anymore because they had, those non polished boots. But how is like the training and stuff like that? And I also have heard too that women are now training over on the West Coast, which
yes.
that's pretty new. And when did that take place?
Yeah. So that happened during my last cycle, which was the integration of females at the West Coast. So prior to that, they have initially incorporated females to MCT down at Camp Pendleton. So I think that was like one of the first phases, as like, hey, can females withstand going through the hills during MCT? So once that the females proved like, hey, we can do the same thing as the males. The next question was like, hey, can they survive recruit training down at San Diego? Because one of the biggest uh, concerns that was brought up is, hey, can they can go over there to Paris Island because they sustain less injuries due to physically, the packs and everything else.
Right.
Can they withstand it, right? And
Like the
then
hairline fractures. There's a lot of hairline fractures and stuff like
yes,
that, right? Yeah.
and those females, that first company, which was with Lima Company, man, those females, like amongst like the female drill instructors, that was something that was very strange, right? Because you have a whole bunch of male drill instructors, and now you have female drill instructors there. Now we have female voices of females screaming around the depot, and that was very uh, weird in a sense, right? Because
Yeah.
it was strange.
And I
But
imagine those females also had something to prove, you know what I mean? So,
oh, bro,
they're the first ones and they're fucking in there like, we got to show these motherfuckers we can hang.
it's great, man. I'm telling you,
That is,
there was one female drone instructor, Sergeant Fall. I can tell you that she was intense, man. Like she took those girls and she slayed the dog piss out of those girls. Like she was relentless. And to be honest, that motivated a lot of male drill instructors too. Like, man, she's showing us, man. So like
that's what I was
I
going to
think
say.
like
I feel like the females probably brought a whole nother level to training in a way that it just adversely happens where, holy shit, we can't let them outdo us now, and then they're like, we're gonna outdo these motherfuckers. And so
it,
now you get almost like a pissing contest, which builds up better, camaraderie and all that stuff.
oh, absolutely. That is like one of the things. Like, there wasn't, at least for my perception, what I saw, right? Because I didn't share with a female platoon within the company. However, looking from the outside, the dynamic was really good. And you saw like the other hats are like, okay, like she's showing me off. Hold on. Like
Yeah,
I need to slay my boys too, man. So
yeah,
I will say like it was a good change, right?
right.
Everyone was kind of you know uh skeptical to the whole entire thing, but once they joined and they showed and they showed that they can do it, it was like wow, we are literally here watching history happen before our eyes, and
That
it was
is,
impressive.
yeah, that is impressive. Now, I do imagine on the flip side, being a Marine, that there was some resistance to this a little bit too. But I got to imagine for the overall, it's a good thing, you know,
Yes,
um,
yes, absolutely.
because the truth of the matter is a good portion of us that go into the fleet are going to be with female Marines. So why not start training with them from the get? There's no reason why not to, and I'm glad that they finally have kind of changed that in a way. And that's good to hear that we got some devil dog sisters coming out of there now.
No, absolutely. And during my time, like we had a plethora of a bunch of changes, right? We had that. We had in one of the companies, in Echo Company, we had two transgenders, and that in
Wow.
itself was remarkable, right? Because
Right,
like
dang.
like you hear that, right? Transgenders and recruit training. How is that? And I will tell you what, you cannot identify who those recruits were. Whoever was transgender, you would not
Right.
know who it was. Like they outperformed a lot of the other recruits, and you couldn't
Yeah.
tell. Like if you would look at the squad bay, like legitimate that unless someone actually pointed them out, you would not know who they were.
And that's something that I think I love about the Marine Corps anyways, and that's kind of why we always had a saying that we all are, green, because I think, we just, I feel like it's very diverse, man. There's guys from all walks of life. I had a guy on my platoon, man, who really honestly didn't know English that well. Um, and we had to kind of help him along the way, but it was just like it's crazy when you're in there, like the focus that you've probably had before you join and your mindset kind of changes once you start training in and you start realizing that none of that shit matters, man, when you're just trying to get a mission done, right?
No,
you need
absolutely.
you need some people that are ready and willing to go do what they got to do to get the mission done. So,
Yes.
and that's why it's hard to find these people. But when you're in there and you start training with everybody, man, and you start to realize in boot camp, like you barely even talk to these cats and stuff like that. Especially back in my day when we didn't have social media and all that, like we didn't really have ways to connect after boot camp. I mean,
Yeah.
without like we were like writing and stuff, and I think we had pagers, but we weren't good at changing numbers and all that. But yeah, man, I mean, I think it's great that it's kind of changing for the better of the mission. Because there's a big mission out there, and not everybody wants to go do the mission.
No, absolutely, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, our mission, right, is to make Marines. It
Right.
doesn't matter if you're black, white, Latino, if you know English or not. It
Yeah.
really doesn't
Nope.
matter, because at the end of the day, what makes you you, uh, it's our job to strip that away.
Right.
We literally strip everything that's your identity. We strip that away, and at the end of the day, all and part of my
Break you
French, right?
down, build you up is definitely the method, and
Yes,
it works.
yes, and
I
at the
mean,
end of the day, what they becoming, right? Part of my French, right? They're just disgusting recruits, right?
yep. No,
uh,
nasties. We're nasty.
y-
Man, we used to call us nasty civilians, bro.
yes, nasty civilians breaking you and taking the
Yeah.
identity away, that what makes you you, and
Right.
molding them to become this ruthless warrior, known uh, in America as Marines, right?
Yeah.
And it's I will say, uh, the mentality that a Marine has prior going to the drill field. You know, all you're just thinking is like, oh, I'm just going over there. I'm just going IT, slay, run and scream. Kick some stress. But there is so much once you're there, once you're in the trenches, how we call it, and your brain just goes into this like it's weird, right? Once you put that campaign cover on, and there's like
You
this,
morph into that body, man.
you
Yeah, you morph
like
into that
something
human
changes,
being.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see you
So,
guys, bro. You come out that damn duty hut with them damn covers on and them belts and everything, looking sharp as shit, ready just to eat some shit, man. I mean, you guys, dude, I'll never forget my drill instructors. I mean, they leave a lasting impression, and I imagine every recruit will forever remember you. You know what I mean? You guys have a lasting impression. You
no,
guys cycle through a lot of platoons. Like, I mean, what are you averaging? Like 52 Marines a
so
company, or is
so
it short, or is it smaller than
so
that?
the so depends, right? So they have this thing called J Jazz, right?
Okay.
And J Jazz is usually like the season where you got the high schoolers that are that they're graduating. So you got everything from May timeframe all the way to like November, right? So J Jazz pretty much like the ones that are graduating, and then they're shipping out during all those months, and then usually uh, pre-COVID, we're talking about roughly like your platoon sizes were 90, 95,
Oh,
97 herds. It's a lot of recruits. It's a lot of recruits.
dude, that
And I'm
is a
talking,
lot
yeah,
of recruits.
yes.
And
You
you
say
guys got
ew.
eyeballs. You guys got all eyeballs all through your body, though. You
No,
guys could
oh, well,
catch everything, bro. Like you could hear a scratch. I swear. You guys got superhuman strength, man. I don't know what
eh,
they
eh,
treat damn drill instructors that train you guys like superhumans, bro.
you know what they feed us? Hate and discontent. That's it.
Fucking dude,
Hate
I'm
and discontent.
serious.
That there's nothing else that keeps you going other than your drill, your drive, right? To continue like drilling these kids down, and making the best product there is possible, right? And
And
you're
I don't
constant.
think the drill instructors get enough respect, bro. Like honestly, your guys is I mean, honestly, have a tough ass job and you guys are doing it, time and time again. You know what I mean? And you're just building another set of badasses to go through. And some of these motherfuckers are award recipients and done some badass shit. And you guys are the one that initially first contact, first, you give us the first impression of what it's like to be a Marine and stuff like that too. You know what I mean? So
And that's the
it's a
thing.
much respect, dude.
And you got to think about it, like for a lot of these kids, right? Other than their recruiter, their first interaction with a no shit actual Marine, other than if they have like family or friends, it's going to be that drill instructor, right? The
Right.
epitome of what a Marine is, right? And that's if you think about it, like, what does America think about their Marines? They're stone cold, hardcore killers. We win our nation's battle. The whole like a plethora of what we do, right?
First to
We
fight.
win America's wars,
Yep.
and you have to give that to those kids, right? And something that we always remind, uh, our drill instructors, when they're in your team, like, hey, whenever you receive that brand new drill instructor, you sit them down, you tell them like, hey, keep in mind, you are not here to, you're probably that hard charging NCO, staff NCO. Sometimes they're gunnery sergeants. Like, hey man, whatever your experience is in the Marine Corps, uh, that's not going to fly here. Just to let you know,
Yeah.
your role here is not to mentor or guide, right? These kids came here for a reason, and you're going to give them that reason, all right? And you would drive it down to those brand new drill instructors. You would tell them literally, like, hey, these kids came to get fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, literally, they came. Like we didn't offer them money, right? We're not like the Army that we offer like bonuses.
Right.
Like
No.
we're not like the Navy that we're going to tell you like, hey, you're going to travel the whole entire world. We're not the Air Force that we tell you like, hey, you'll just work like 3 hours a day behind the desk or something like that, right? And just
And we
just
don't even
friendly.
got the coolest equipment, man. We usually get the Army hand-me-downs, coolest
Yeah.
shit, dude.
So all that those kids are offered is like, hey, you're going to join in the most challenging thing you ever done in your whole entire life.
Yeah, no shit.
You're going to receive a title that very few can say that they've earned, and you're going to be proud as shit about it, right? So you tell that to the drone instructors, like, you're going to give them everything that they came here for, absolutely fucking everything, whatever their feelings are or anything else. You just feed off on that, but you're
Yeah.
not going to give in to them. They didn't come here to get coddled. They came
Right.
here for a challenge, and you're going to give it to them. And it's very impressive, right? Because a lot of times, like, these brand new drone instructors will come in, and they don't see it until it's like family day, right? Until you have that brand new product, that Marine, and that mom, that grandma, sees their son that they sent like 13 weeks ago, and they see this brand new man, standing taller, looking straighter, with a very different demeanor. And
Hmm.
it becomes kind of awkward, right? Especially when the dads are around, and they look at the drill sergeant like, thank you for making my little boy as a man. And then you look at the dad and you're like, man, your son gave me such a headache. Like, I was doing your
Right.
role, bro.
Yeah. Like
uh
where you've been lacking these past years, dude. I had
yes,
to
but
reinstate that.
however, that's when you notice, because you're with them day in, day out. So realistically, you do not see the change until that moment on family day where parents are saying like, hey, this and that, and then you take a step back and you're like, oh shit, you know what, this dude was like a little pudgy fat dude, and now he's squared away. He got his little six-pack going on. you know he's you already know, like, yeah, man, this motivator's ready to conquer the world. Get on his phone, take a couple pictures, and post his boot pictures there.
I
And,
feel like you're like the speaker at the graduation, man. You know.
but yes, it's phenomenal to see that change.
and,
It's
and
phenomenal.
I've talked about it on my episodes a couple times. If you could ever actually go watch a graduation, it's probably one of the best ceremonies to go check out. You know what I mean? Them
It,
dudes are fucking on top of their shit. They're the best shape of their life because a lot of them dudes don't stay like that. Let's just face it. Some of them
yes,
go on to fleet, and you know,
yeah, and
they
it's
they
like,
don't have to just go to the chow hall all the time. They're not diet recruits or something anymore. Someone overlooking their trade, because I was a diet recruit, ain't gonna lie, and I had a drill instructor who was sitting there telling me, don't eat that, don't you dare touch that, take the whipped cream off that Jello. Like
yes, absolutely. And you
it
got to
is.
think about it. It's like we're we start talking about making that transformation that we do, and then we talk about sustain the transformation, which there's a plethora of books, PME, you name it.
Yeah, because we got
What?
bad eating habits going in there too, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
So all of us probably have horrible eating habits. That's why most of us are really pretty much out of shape when we
And
get there.
and you think about it, man. Like a lot of these kids that come in, they're super coddled, man. Like you
Oh
have
hell
kids
yeah! No, that's what I
never.
ask you, dude. Is this day and age? I don't know if this is true, and someone just bullshitting. But I heard there's like stress cards and stuff like that nowadays, and
Oh,
things of that
not.
nature.
Oh no, not for no. There's no stress cards. The only
Okay, yeah, see that? Yeah, that's some bullshit. I
Yeah,
knew
the
that. I was
only
like,
I will say that there's no type of stress cards. The only stress card that that the kid can say that will make uh the drill instructor stops are the infamous magic words, which I'm not gonna say what the infamous magic words
yeah,
just in
don't
case
give
there's
these fools nothing.
yes, just in case we're like, oh, hold on, this is
Don't give
my ticket
anybody a
free
key,
homework.
bro.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't have no key.
but yeah, even then, like when you have quits that the kids that legitimately like quit. Like I remember I had one kid, I was like, team the dog piss out of him, and then he looks at me, and then he stands up and he's like, "This recruit's done. This recruit wants to quit." I'm like, I guess I gave you a freaking option to fucking quit, huh? Yeah, get your face on the dirt and just push. And like the kid like looked at me like, I didn't fucking start, just fucking push. And this kid literally dropped his face to the freaking dirt, starts smacking his head
Oh
onto the
shit. Okay.
freaking dirt like a freaking maniac.
Oh,
But he finished
bro.
his IT session though.
Well,
He finished. He finished his IT session.
a
And
little
he
bit
went
of a
back to
bump on
training.
his head. Damn.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Well, that's
mean,
good. He knocked some head. Well, obviously, he needed some sense knocked into his head, right? He
hey
did
man,
it.
perfect jarhead, man. Perfect jarhead.
He's gonna make a great Marine. Don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
great Marine, man. Throw him
He'll
some
be in there
crayons or something.
smashing. Yeah, he'll be smashing cans on his head in the barracks and.
But yeah, and that's the thing, and there's this conception of of generations, right? And
Yeah.
you always go back to what just Jesse Puller said, right? Old breed, new breed, it doesn't matter. It's the Marine breed, right?
Yep.
And you hear a lot of guys that are like, oh, this new generation. And I'll tell you what about this new generation. They're smart.
Yeah.
These
Oh no.
kids, these
Yeah,
kids
I wouldn't
are
doubt it, dude,
smart.
because they grew up with a lot more technology and there's a lot more things to learn from for these kids. Even my 5-year-old trips me out, man. Like
And
this little dude, like he knows some things. I'm just like, what? Like, where are you
it,
getting this from?
it's very impressive the things that the new recruits come in and already knowing. Like they already know like the regulations that drill instructors are abide by. And that's
That's yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
That is dangerous because if you
Well, you
have
know
like a
what? There's TikTok now, man, and I've even done TikTok videos of like boot camp and stuff like that. And there's kids out there like, yeah, I'm gonna be a Marine. I can't wait. And I'm just like trying to cheer these guys on because, of course, man, I'm hoping eventually I'm gonna be watching another video of these dudes, in their uniform and stuff. Like, I can't wait, man.
yeah,
But
absolutely. And it's I like it that these kids are being more educated that you have more that uh what would I say? Like there's a lot of complaints that the kids that graduate right from recruit training are not as robotic as before. But guess what? You don't want someone that's robotic, right? You want someone that's thinking
right,
because at the end of the day, those are the guys that go out there in deployments, right? They put their life on the line. They have to think critically. They need to, think fast, adapt to whatever comes up, so that way, they can bring themselves and their buddies back home because at the end of the day a successful deployment is everybody comes back home.
yeah.
So it's very different.
I watched dudes freeze over there pretty bad. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like when the shit hit the fan and we were under pressure or there's bombs, around us hitting, dudes were like, you were having to like, hey bro, pull your head out. Hey bro. Like, come on, man, pull your shit together, like in a zone, dude. Like you know, um, so some of these kids, I guess, at least some of these kids have gotten a dose of in stories from what's going on. And because not every generation, I think, experiences war, dude. You know what I mean? And not every Marine, when they go in, are they going to go into a combat zone or have any experience? But you guys definitely have there's probably master sergeants in there right now, gunnies, that are all, been back there in '03 around the time I was, that are probably still in there because there's dudes probably still, rocking it 20 years
yeah.
later.
And that's the thing. So something that you might not be aware of is like now we don't have 3 phases for recruit training. We have 4 phases, right? Um,
During my during I did some like a little bit of some research, and I did see that it has switched up, and even the way the phases are ran. Because when I was in Edson Range was the very final phase, and we did the Crucible there and all that stuff, and then when we came back, we were considered Marines at that point in time. Now it sounds like
yes.
it's a little bit different.
Well, that still happens, right? Because I know like the training schedule changes a little bit here and there. So before, like they had like they would do like the 3 phases, and they would go like I believe second phase up to Pendleton, do the rifle range and everything else, come back down, do final drill and everything else, and then go back up to Pendleton to do the Crucible, then to come back down. So when you think about it, it's a logistical nightmare.
Yeah,
Now with the 4th phase model, right? It's the same 13 weeks. They kind of cut out a little bit of the fat, but now all they made it in a manner that makes sense. So everything as far as like drill
better
and drill
flow.
requirements, academics, exercise, it's all done down south, right? Down in MCRD San Diego. And then for 3rd phase, they'll move up those recruits up to Pendleton to do what is it? Range week, firing week, or grass week,
The field week.
firing week,
Yeah, yeah.
field week, and then finish off with the Crucible. And then they have 2 weeks as Marine weeks. Instead of having one, they have two. And
Oh,
I think like those 2 weeks are amazing because during those 2 weeks, the recruits get a lot of, or the brand new Marines get a lot of classes, which
on etiquettes and stuff like that.
it's a lot of classes, man. Like a lot of classes as far as like
Sexual harassment, probably
sexual
all
harassment,
those.
pros and
Yeah.
cons,
Well, that's
career
good.
progression. They have MOS mixers, which is great because a lot of those kids have so many questions about like, hey, what's the fleet like? So now they get
All right.
interaction with not only their drill instructors, but with actual Marines from the fleet. They'll come in and give their perspective, like what's the barracks life like? What's the pipeline go like? We do like I believe like there's one day that you take the new Marines around the base and you show them like, hey, this is what a barracks room looks like. This is what like a no shit chow hall looks like, and they
Oh,
are
wow.
so mind blown. They're like,
Well, they, you know what? That I mean, gosh dang, I'll tell you what. That's actually very good and informational because as I've gone through some of my episodes and my stories of going through boot camp and stuff like that. That's one of the things, man. What I was super intimidated going into, like what's next, and how do I act as into the fleet, and I got punked, my first day checking into Camp Pendleton by some guys not wearing any blouse and didn't know any better, but they're just fucking with me, but
yeah,
there's just so much that, I guess when you're leaving boot camp, you just don't know what the hell to expect is next. You only hear what the recruiter keeps telling you, but he also hasn't done the same job that you're going for. So he can only tell you so much.
yes, exactly, and it better equips those brand new Marines because
That's
one of
great.
the things with our when I was there at the depot, we had a brand new um, regimental commander, and he man he came with the mission that we're not going to continue doing eliminating like what's hazing, right? And his thought process was, where does hazing start from, right? Because obviously if you look at the pack order, hazing is authorized and recruit depot because quote unquote IT is could be considered like hazing, but it's authorized at the depot compared to back in the fleet, these brand new knuckleheads, right? You might have a brand new corporal. What's his only thing that he remembers of leadership? He remembers his drill instructor.
Yep.
So uh, there are a couple changes that were done as far as like the conduct of the drill instructor, as far as the training schedule, where now it better equips that brand new Marine, and he understands like this is what is considered discipline. this is like no shit hazing. And now those brand new Marines go better equipped to the fleet, where you might have a corporal that doesn't know better, that lacks of leadership, of training, because it's just a brand new leader that needs training. you know they're going to be like, I'm not going to do that because that's
They make them
unlawful.
go still. Sorry, they make them go through the NCO course still and stuff like that, right? Once they pick up corporal, they're supposed to, right? I know most of
Yes.
them don't go immediately, and that's probably
Oh,
where we're lacking, is that they should be probably going right before they turn corporal.
we got now. They got obviously they have corporal's course, sergeant's course, but now they have another thing, which is Lance Corporal Seminar, which
Ah,
if you need to pick up corporal, if you have to take Lance Corporal Seminar. So although it's more and more information that they already know, but it goes back to the basics, right? Sustain the transformation, everything else, and remaining on like what our core values and everything else. And just don't be a shitty dude.
do you guys still have to do MCIs and all that stuff?
No. So right now, there's no more NCIs.
Okay.
Now everything's done on Marine Online,
Ah.
and now things are changing, man. Like I'm
Well, it
telling you,
sounds like
man.
for the better, man. I mean, quite honestly, there's a lot of things you're telling me that maybe had it been in place, I may have been retained. You know what I mean? Um,
Well, so let me tell you, things that I am liking where the Marine Corps is going on. So our current commandant, with his 2030 plan, like everything is geared towards education and making a smarter Marine, correct? So
that's
like
good.
now, instead of having MCIs, because before the MCIs, like print out the book and you just copy paste whatever, right? Now your
Back when we
courses,
had books, actual
yes.
books.
So now it's like you're doing like online courses, like if you're like going to college, but on the Marine Corps side. And there's even like little like seminars. So for example, Marines can go and say like, oh look, there's a course, a 8-week course on discussing the book The Kill Chain, and you'll read through the entire book, and they'll consider it as an MCI course, and in some cases they even consider it as college credits.
Wow, that's
So
great.
and so, in a sense, if a brand new Marine is considering like, "Hey, I want to go to college, but I don't know, I want to get a feel of it." Hey, man, just go and enroll yourself in a Marine Net course. It doesn't cost you nothing out of your pocket, correct? And you go through the whole thing, right? Week one or module one, you'll read the first two chapters, and you'll have one discussion post, and then respond to two of your peers within your class, and they get that feeling of online courses and everything else. Another thing that the Marine Corps is implementing now is the Naval Community College, which allows a junior enlisted to actually go to college without having to use TA, not using GI, their GI post bill, to experience going to college and getting their associate's degree.
Well, that's great, man. I mean, they're just gonna make better leaders,
Yes.
or
So
that's great. I mean, because there's more than just being a Marine. Sometimes you gotta use your brain. You got to be able to go out and fight. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that comes with being a Marine. It's not just a lot of people just think gun, fight, shoot, kill. You know what I
and,
mean?
and you got to think about it, man. Like right now we're in peacetime Marine Corps, so
Right.
you got to think about it in this aspect. Like, what is the purpose of a Marine? The purpose of a Marine is to go fight wars. That is the main purpose of a Marine.
Yep.
If there's no war, what do you do with a Marine? Right? And a Marine without purpose is going to kill our retention, right? So what do we do to still allow this Marine to continue training, be ready, and still be competitive, regardless if he's going to stay in for 4 years or 20 years? All right, let's start pushing education. Let's make them smarter. Because at the end of the day, you have some motherfucker on the other side of the world that's training, that's becoming smarter. Like right now, all this like cyber attacks and everything else, like the enemy's getting smarter, and
Yeah,
we need to be
absolutely.
ready and competitive with that, right?
Yep.
I know we're going a little bit off a topic
No,
on
yeah,
on that portion.
but no, we
Um,
could definitely keep going down that rabbit hole.
that's another podcast.
Yeah,
But
next episode.
yes.
But no, dude. But anyways, back to you kind of being into the boot camp stuff. Now, do they do? am kind of into the education part of it, do they still get to pay into the whole GI Bill and stuff like that, or how does that work? Because when I was in, in boot camp, you kind of paid towards your these.
So
They
now,
initiated it where you did the GI Bill and you pay like the first year or something like that, and then when you got out, you could use your GI Bill.
so now they're doing like the post 9/11 GI Bill. I cannot talk too intelligently about that,
Right, right.
but
But they're still offering it though. That's
I
good.
believe like once you're like 90 days in service, if you decide, I don't understand why you would, but you can start using your post 9/11 GI Bill. Uh, Usually like the ones that you'll see doing that are kids that are stuck in the pipeline. Like let's say like they're in they got hurt during recruit training, and then they have to come back and still stay till they heal up. Then they can use their post 9/11 GI Bill to go to school while they wait and they heal at the Marine platoon down at MCRD.
Wow. I mean, they've definitely have changed, a lot. It
It's
just
changed a lot, man.
it
And
definitely
even
has, and it for the better, in my opinion. I mean, there. It sounds like they're doing good in the areas that they've never really paid attention to in the past, but it sounds
oh,
like they're starting to pay attention to things.
and it's going to continue changing, right?
That's good. Yeah.
So I'll throw you this French, right? So when you used to go to the classes, right? What did you remember the Green Monsters, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so what if I tell you? What if I tell you instead of having a Green Monster, we give recruits iPads?
Wow. I wouldn't be halfway, I wouldn't doubt that, but wow. Wow, how
Exactly.
far have they come? That's great.
So so
If that's a
so that
thing,
is
or if that's going to be a thing.
so that is so that back when I was on the drill field, I had the opportunity to go on quota, and I worked at AIP, which is the academic instructors platoon. The one that give classes to recruits. During that time, we had Brigadier General Heritage, that he was the commanding general for MCRD, and one of his goals was he wanted to work on this special project called Classroom of the Future. And when he brought his entire staff uh, to the classroom, and you have like all these the big wigs at MCRD giving the presentation, like this is what we believe, what it should be, classroom of the future. He looked at everyone and he was like, I don't get it. Like I want something that's classroom of the future. I do not want a more hyped up PowerPoint. I want something that's immersive. And I remember and this is us. We're just standing outside and we're hearing this whole conversation, and we hear like one of the civilians stand up and is like, well, why do we have to change absolutely anything if the recruits are getting 99% on their tests? And man, I've never seen a general get mad, but that man got furious when he heard that answer. It's like, I'm not here to maintain it. Like we need change. Like obviously it's not enough and it's not challenging. We're trying to offer these civilians become Marines a challenge. Obviously, this education we're giving them is not challenging enough. So he got mad at his whole entire staff. Then he came down to us, which is ground level, to the staff sergeants and sergeants that were down there giving the classes, and he asked our opinion, like, "Hey, what do you think classroom of the future should be like?" And at that time, I'm starting my master's degree, and I'm full like immersed in this research paper I'm doing, and I was studying on augmented reality technology and whatnot. And they asked me about it. I'm like, well, can you give me like, I don't know, give me like a couple days to think about it. And then when they went back and they asked me like, hey, what do you think it is? And you remember when you did triple C, which is up, down, left, right, all around clear, low call to the victim. Are you all right? Are you okay? Are you call the corpsman? You call 911. So imagine instead of having a dummy, right?
Yeah.
You put on a flak, you put on a Kevlar, right? And on this Kevlar, it has lenses, and now it puts you in this immersive environment that now you're not looking at a dummy. You're like, no shit. You're in Vietnam. You're in the Arctic Circle. You're in some sort of environment,
Wow.
and it's not like you're just only treating the victim because he has a bullet wound. You're under gunfire. No, there's a desert storm. There's a ice storm.
Yeah.
And throw all these different frictions that happens actually in real life, and that recruit needs to be able to do the applications of TCCC to the victim. And when I told
Wow.
that to the general, he was like, "All right, I like where we're going. I want a presentation for it." And we're like, "Okay, cool." So we sat down, we talked about it, and then when we went to, I remember it was this giant brief. I remember there was a colonel giving his brief of what classroom of future should be like. And when he gave his presentation, he was talking like, oh, well, we can make like an app for poolies and they have to take an assessment on testing. And I started shaking my head. And the general looks at me and he's like, well, SSgt Cruz, what you got? Because obviously, like, you do not look like you agree with the colonel over here. I'm like, well, sir, we'll all do this. With all due respect, I believe like if we incorporate this, we're going to start hurting recruiting efforts because these kids already have a rough time just memorizing general orders, leadership traits, and principles. Now you want to give them a test, like
Yeah.
it's and he's like, all right, well, tell me what you got. So I started going to like, all right, so imagine this, right? Imagine that you have like this hologram, right? This hologram presentation. And we're going to say that we're going to talk about World War III. And as soon as I say you have that globe of the world and it starts spinning, and drops you down to Japan or World War I and it drops you down to Bellawood. Because you say Bellawood, these kids have no idea where Bellawood is, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
now
No, they're
you
not very
you
good with
show
their geographics.
right, and now you put it in a very, as you're storytelling the history, our history, now not only do you talk about like from the point of view of the Marines entering to Bellwood, but now change the scope, right? And now you're like the Russians and you're seeing the Marines coming in with their eyes bloodshot, coming through the smoke and fog. Now you're start to like describing why we were called devil dogs, right? And then you can shoot it from an overview and see how the Marines are going into Bellawood and murking the freaking Germans, right? And now you made a immersive environment where those recruits are going to be very engaged into everything. And when I told the general about it, he was like, "When do we start phase zero?" I'm like, "Well, show me the money." He's like, we're broke.
Yeah.
Find it for cheap. All right. So kind of like that, I worked with. By the time I left MCRD, because I
What
went
year
to a
did
couple
you
trips.
leave? What year did you leave there?
I left in 2021.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
by the time I left there, I know like they've already. So one of the things that I explained to the general was like, before we spend millions and millions of dollars in all this high tech educational stuff, which is going to be beneficial, we need to set our metrics, right? Uh, we cannot just implement stuff because it's flashy and it looks good. We need to know our metrics. How do we know that this is effective, right? Because one of the things that I voice is like our test is ass. Regardless, like if the kid doesn't know anything about UCMJ, right?
Yeah.
uh, he needs just an 80 to pass the test. So if he fails everything on UCMJ, he still passes the test. But our mission is to create a basically trained Marine. So if we change that and make a testing where we're going to give you different subjects, right? And out of all those subjects, like let's say UCMJ, if you answer two questions correctly on UCMJ, then you proceed to the next subject, right? And that will be quote unquote you mastered the subject on UCMJ. But if you miss those two questions, then you get more questions on UCMJ until the computer deems you that you've mastered that subject.
That's great. I mean, we got to get with the times, or the enemy's going to get ahead of us too.
Yes.
Like you said, man, the enemy's always training and always getting smarter. We got to stay ahead of the enemy, and like that's the ultimate goal, is to stay ahead of the enemy, because you never know when that fight may come, right? And
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
glad they're starting to make it, because I mean these kids also, man, they all are learning on pads and stuff nowadays. Like, show me a kid that doesn't have iPads or, a Kindle or something. A lot of kids have these nowadays. And, you might as well start putting them into what they know how to bring it down to the level they know how to learn, and they can master it. and shit. They might even show, us some things with technology as they go through,
Well,
like you, man.
well,
I mean, you're bringing something new to some of these old guys probably sitting there like, huh? Like, are you
well,
shitting me? We're not going to get away from the green monster. You know what I mean?
well, 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 well,
Yes, we are, sir.
oh, and obviously when I brought up the idea, the other drone instructors like, oh, what was this? Like, we're creating a GameStop here, like what? And
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're
they
taking it in a
brought up
whole
like
nother.
all these what
Yeah,
ifs, like what if it
right.
breaks? What if it's this? I'm like, dog, like I need you to think with me real quick. My 5-year-old is given a laptop, and some in some cases, some of these kids get iPads sent home. A 5-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're telling me that, well, where we're going to charge it? We create docking stations. Like when we're talking about this, like you have to remodel this stuff. And here's the other aspect: you give an iPad to a recruit, right? Say it's square away time. Instead of the kid waiting to write a letter back home, he can send an email. The Marine Corps or the recruit training can create a system to send emails. Where uh, you can send emails back and forth, and not only that, it's a way, like, for example, if the drill instructors too could possibly monitor what mail comes in and out,
Yeah,
where if there's any sort of allegations that are going through mail, you can catch it and freaking nip it in the butt real quick
yeah,
before
absolutely.
mom
Yeah,
takes it
that's
to the
true.
freaking Senate, and moms of
Right,
America comes in, and we change recruit training all over again, right?
right. Yep.
um So there's a number of benefits, right? And also
Damn, you sound like a
you
good
have
drill
like that one
instructor.
recruit that doesn't get mail for like 8 weeks, and he's about to freaking off himself because he feels like nobody loves him, and it's like, no, you're a dumb kid. You sent your parents the wrong address, so he's sending to Billy Nilly over there in a
Yeah,
different whole
yeah.
ass company.
Or that fool
So
put a freaking, he put a 2 instead of an 8 or somewhere, like it's just one little number off. I mean,
yes,
honestly, that sounds great. I mean, and how much faster that, and it, you don't have to make like a whole mail clerk and all that for the recruits, because I imagine that takes a lot of time. The
it
amount of
is.
letters and stuff that come through there, and I know
Mail.
that they have to be checked and make sure that there's nothing being sent through a lot of times. Um, I don't know how well they check it, or if you guys really, if they do check every piece of mail that comes through, but
So
it sounds like
mail
it's a lot of
is
work.
mail is a lot of work, and a lot of people don't think about it, but when you have a company full of that it's roughly like 537 recruits, and you gotta go to post office and grab all that mail and then sort all that mail per platoon, that takes a good chunk of time. It takes a lot. So if you eliminate that, you're just saving a lot of time. So,
Yeah.
but that falls into like Lean Six Sigma and everything else. So
Exactly. Yeah.
um
Well, fucking now you can dedicate more training to to the Warriors, man.
yeah,
Put that time and
absolutely.
effort onto the Warriors instead of worrying about, holy shit, how are we gonna get the mail to these guys? We got a whole process flow we gotta to go through, because there's all these platoons and these different companies, and damn, I could imagine that being a shit show.
It is. It
I would hate
most
that
definitely
job. And
it,
I just actually had an interview with Tim Sears. He's a Marine, and he was actually a tank mechanic. He wanted to go to combat, so he decided to do the mail clerk job. And he said, "Man, you would not believe how rough that job is."
it's rough, man. Like I'm telling you, so there was one cycle that one of the drill instructors, after the recruits graduated and everything else, like uh he had like whatever leftover mail, and he forgot to drop it off at the post office. So when we're starting cycle again, and the chiefs are walking through, and they go through the senior drill instructor closet, and he sees like, hey, what's this? And he's like, we don't we don't know. And they're like, well, this is from we turned this in, and everyone in the company got a nip block from it. Everyone, because that is something that you do not fuck around with. You do not fuck around with recruit mail at all.
I was
Like,
gonna
you get
say,
mail
man,
from a
there's some
recruit.
like legalities with mail, and like some
Yes,
sensitive, very sensitive stuff,
yes. Like,
right?
mail is something that you do not want to fuck around with. Like, if you want to find your way outside the Marine Corps, fuck with mail, and I promise you, you will get kicked
Gone
out real quick.
real quick. So let me ask you, were you senior drill instructor, junior, or do you guys like how does that end up
So,
happening?
a lot of it is right place, right time, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it all depends. So I want to say that the process starts from DI school, right? And like the sergeant majors from the different battalions have like this whole drafting game, right? So they're always looking at the potential that you have, that they have in DI school, and be like, all right, well, these guys look like they're good swimmers, so we're going to send them to quiz at some point, everything else, and then they divvy them out in the company, right? Once you're at the company, depending on your performance and who comes in, who gets out, and quota, right? That's the biggest monster there is feeding quota. It's going to depend on right place, right time. So, if you want to think of like in a different manner, it's like promotions, right? You're going to have to wait for that gunny to get out to be able to get promoted to the next rank. So it's going to depend on right place, right time. So in my case, when I joined in 2018, um, that first cycle that was there, my J got fired, so I moved up to become a third hat on my first cycle. I had no clue what I was doing at all. And then the next two cycles, I remained at the same billet because my second cycle was just a complete disaster. My first cycle, since the dynamic was really weird, my second cycle, it was like I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? For my third cycle, um, it was a pretty good cycle, except like the kids sucked. Like
Was the third cycle about when did you hit the COVID time? Because you were what, a drill
so
instructor
yes,
like
so
about
I
2 years before it hit, or
no, so COVID hit in, I want to say,
like 2020?
2019,
Well,
2020.
yeah, 2020 is when they kind of started making a stink out of it.
Yes,
Like they
yes.
closed
So
everything down around March and
yes,
April.
so I went on quota in, I want to say, May. That I went to AIP after my third cycle because they're like, hey, we need to send someone, and it was like between myself and another hat, and they're like, well, we're going to keep this one hat and we're going to send you a quota. I was super bitter about it at first, but it was a blessing in disguise. I'll tell you, it was a blessing in disguise because the other hat, he lasted till like T16, and then he called taps. He quit.
Oh
And
shit.
I was just laughing about, see, you picked him over me, so I would have stayed, but whatever, either here or there. And then COVID, in the middle of my time on quota, COVID hit, and I'm telling you, man, that was weird. That was weird.
Did they
So
make kids quarantine? Yeah, give us the whole process. I'm kind of just
okay,
curious
so
how
here
they
we go, man.
yeah,
Here we
let's
go.
get into it.
So COVID hit, right? And once COVID hit, you had like the Air Force, like every other branch stopped their recruit training whatsoever, right?
Oh,
Marine
stopped
Corps,
altogether, huh?
yeah. The Marine Corps, guess what we said? Fuck that shit. We're going to keep on pressing, right? So we're going to keep on training recruits.
That boys.
And at that point, MCRD was the safest place to be, if you think about it, because no one was coming in, no one was coming out. So
Right.
the
Yeah.
the whole thing about COVID really wasn't a thing, right? Um,
Now, did
unless
they
it was
make you
coming.
guys wear masks and stuff too, or?
So we started with the silly mask, right? So the first thing was the Marine Corps issued like, hey, we don't know really what to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut your skivvy shirt in half, and you're going to make a mask out of your skivvy shirt, and that's going to protect you against COVID.
Okay.
I shit you not.
Oh
There was
man.
even on Marines.mil, there were even like tutorials of how to cut your skivvy shirt.
That's great. Oh my gosh.
It
Wow.
was wild, right? But
Adapt and overcome.
yeah, adapt and overcome. And for the first couple of weeks, it was all right. You saw like the recruits coming in with their green shirts over their face.
Oh man.
It was kind of weird until the first company uh got hit with COVID,
Oh.
and it was at that point is when MCRD said like, we're going to stop, we're going to cease training in regards like receiving recruits, right, shipping wise. Now, people don't understand how bad that is, right? Because from an aspect, I was like, oh, you can stop training them, like, but you got to think about it. The machine needs to get the Marine Corps. The machine needs to get fed, right?
Yep.
And this is where we go with retention and everything else. The machine needs to get fed, because
Be-
regardless if you don't enter guys coming in, that doesn't stop the guys that are getting out.
Nope. And then also, like, there's schools that are being funded and stuff like that these guys got to go to afterwards. There's other training after boot camp too,
So
so that stops everything behind it. Kind of stops too. There's a
well,
whole other part after boot camp.
yeah. So and if you think about it, right now, uh, the Marine Corps is still feeling the effects of COVID,
Of
of
doing,
that
yeah.
little gap that we had, and I see it right now because I got very experienced sergeants, and then I have very inexperienced lance corporals. That little gap that's supposed to be in between, like your senior lance corporal or that corporal, you don't have it. Why?
Mm.
Because of that little gap that we had of 8 weeks.
It was
That
8 weeks.
those 8 weeks really made a pain onto the Marine Corps. And
Wow,
when we're
eight
talking
weeks
about
is
a
a long
really
time.
pain, yes. So
That's
8 weeks,
almost a
and you're
whole. That's almost one whole cycle.
so if you think about it, that's rough like what, like 10,000 recruits, 8,000
Damn.
recruits, give or take a number, right? Just
Yeah.
to put a number out there. So it's a number of Marines that the fleet is waiting to receive to be able to train, and they're not getting it. They got guys that are getting out. So you can imagine how it's affecting readiness around the whole entire Marine Corps. So it was it,
That's rough. So, like, and then
it, it
after the whole COVID thing, like, what was the numbers that started coming through once
so
they kind of after the 8 weeks started though? When you guys picked
so
back up, was there a waiting list
so
or did it die down?
so now the recruit depot started having implementing controls, like how do we continue train these guys. And I was there sitting down for so many meetings for this, right?
Yeah. Wow,
From the academics platoon, like
you were
what can
definitely
we
in there in a
do.
unique time.
Yeah, so what do we do to mitigate the effects? Because we have to do these changes. We have to continue, because the fleet is suffering if we do not change, if we don't train brand new Marines. Like we need to do something, and we need to do something quick. And we all knew, all the hats that were down there, we all knew that we were about to get really fucking slayed. Like these
Mm.
breaks that we have between one cycle and another, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. No, we're about to start doing back to back. Like we are about to really put in some work.
Yep.
Um, and that's invisible to the rest of the Marine Corps. They're like, oh yeah, you guys are just hitting stress. Like, no, bro, you're doing like 3 cycles back to back to back to back with that no pause. Like platoon whatever dismiss, sit up straight and look at me now, right? Um, so there was a point MCRD that you're walking around and it looks like an episode from The Walking Dead. There's no recruits. It was the weirdest
Wow.
thing ever.
Eerie, huh?
There's no screams, nothing. It was a complete ghost town. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen. Walking through Recruit Highway, and there was not a single recruit. There wasn't a single train company on the street.
That's
So
probably, dude, that's probably actually something in history. I wonder if I don't know. I'd have to go back and look and see if there's ever been a time in history where we've ever had to stop training. And I mean, you said the Marines kind of kept on going. Shit, man, the other branches probably were, a couple of weeks before you guys, so they're probably even in our whole, the whole, the whole service branches as a whole are suffering, I imagine, from this whole thing.
so you can imagine why why we're emphasizing on retention and recruiting efforts, right? So one of the things, right, that changed, right, because you can remember being the squad bay, there's bunk beds, right? So
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of the things that we came with, or are the people that deal with health, they're like, hey, instead of having bunk beds, we're going to do single racks.
Okay.
So now your squad bay, instead of having an open squad bay where the drill instructor runs through the what we call the drill instructor highway,
Yeah.
now it's full of racks. So now
Ah.
the drill instructor running around inside, like that whole running around, that's not happening. You have drill instructors with a mask, and you've experienced, you know how rough it is having a mask on, just talking and walking around. Now imagine having to have the intensity of a drill instructor, running, screaming, demanding with a mask on.
Dude, you guys' masks were probably soaked. You guys could
It
probably
was
wring them
so
out. You guys could wring
soaked,
them out after you were done.
disgusting,
Oh,
and it's
I
hard
couldn't
because
imagine.
you're
And
blowing
how
out
many?
your voice,
Yeah, and
and
that's the other
the
thing,
recruits can't hear you. So
right?
imagine if the recruits can't overhear you. Now you have a something in front of your face. They
Get
could
over here,
definitely not barely
nasty.
hear you.
You know these dudes are losing their man.
Like,
I'm
it's not like
surprised your voice. Did you ruin your voice while you were a drill instructor?
yeah. So my first cycle, like it was terrible. It wasn't until I went to,
Learn
it
how to
wasn't
use
until
that
my third
diaphragm.
cycle I actually learned how to use my diaphragm because I had like my first two cycles. It was like ah,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
the
That's the
frogging as they
that's
call it.
the yeah. That's the pretty much one of the typical voices you end up hearing.
And then I finally like learned how to use my diaphragm and everything else, and started learning like techniques like how do I conserve my voice and everything else. So you kind of learn down the road. It's a painful one, but you learn. So you have that going on in COVID. Exercises are a little bit different. How we hygiene the guys, right? Before, back in the day, hey, shove 92 kids in the freaking shower heads and all get showered, and you got
Yeah.
this much time. Oh, hell no, man. Now you have to do a whole entire process like, hey, a quarter of the platoon is going to go shower, pull them out, put a quarter in. Now all your processes that would take you like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, now it's taking 40 minutes to do all your processes. You have the sergeant major walking on deck, right? And he's looking around. He's like, hey, the house doesn't smell like bleach. It doesn't smell clean. Your kids are going to get sick, right? And that was the other thing. And then just to go back to like the whole process, right? Recruits, uh, they were going crazy.
Oh, I bet,
IT,
man.
IT and recruits wasn't the biggest threat anymore, right? So when recruits would come to MCRD, instead of standing on the yellow footprints, they would go straight to a hotel. They would go to a basketball court, do their registrations and whatnot, and then they would stick them into a hotel room for 2 weeks. They're pretty much like prisoners. I still remember my first cycle coming back from quota.
Quarantine, like a
Yep,
quarantine
in
thing.
quarantine,
Damn.
they take us to do our COVID test before the cycle starts, and they did our COVID test in the same hotel where all the recruits were at that were there for 2 weeks. And bro, when I tell you, we got there and it was a fucking shit show. Like these kids had like signs on the window saying like, "Please release me, I'm in jail."
Oh
Like
shit!
shirts out. It was a fucking wild, wild west, man.
These fools couldn't wait to get smoked.
They could not wait, man. So when you would tell
Oh
a
my
recruit,
gosh! How they were there
like
for
like
2 weeks, dude? Straight up 14 days, or was it
14
10?
days, bro, stuck in a room. They were
Wow.
going crazy. So now you bring them out there, right, to recruit training, and now you tell the kids like, Ty, you don't want to freaking scream? Ty, I'm going to stick you 2 weeks in the freaking hotel. Bro, those kids will scream on top of their freaking, like, you don't even have
Breaking
time to
their
see them at that point.
breaking their diaphragms like you get the
Yeah, like,
recruits sounding like the drill instructors now.
so for them, man, like that was traumatizing for them.
Wow.
And so the kids were coming a lot weaker because it's 2 weeks. So if you think about it, as they ship out, like 2 weeks before they ship out, they're trying to stop doing exercise so that way they don't hurt themselves, so they're able to ship out. And then you add 2 weeks being in quarantine. By the time they make it out of quarantine, like they're like super freaking weak, right?
Oh
Now add
man.
on to that, then now we put restrictions at the mess decks, right? So you're going to be 2 weeks in quarantine in regards to you're not going to go to the chow hall and eat, to mitigate that if any of these kids had any sort of COVID symptoms during their time in quarantine, because they're the new kids in the block, we're going to isolate you guys. So if anybody has anything, you don't affect the rest of the freaking depot, because it's a domino effect, man.
No
One
shit.
kid gets
Yeah.
sick, it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Um,
How long did
so
they
you
do
have
that whole hotel? Putting them up in the motel thing.
uh I'm not sure if they're still doing it. By the time I was leaving, they were still doing it.
Wow.
Um,
That's got to
so I'm not
cost
sure
be a
if they're
costly
still doing
too,
it or
man.
not. Um, but I will say this, like, it was really rough, especially if you had a platoon and one of your kids got hit with COVID. it was bad, man, because that means that you were stuck with your platoon. The drill instructors were stuck in the squad bay for whatever the quarantine period it was. So that means 2 weeks that you're not going home, 2 weeks that you're not going into the training companies or nothing. Like, you are 2 weeks stuck in the squad bay with those recruits. And I'm telling you that and all you're just getting are the box nasties from the chow hall too, because you're not allowed to go to the chow hall.
I don't think
So
motherfuckers know how bad that is. Like in general, like that man, you have a whole nother element that most
like
people never will ever have to
so when you
experience.
so when you think about it, man, these kids are max stressed out
No
because
shit.
like
They
they're
go
not
through a
getting like
whole
the
nother
same like fancy
yeah.
food at the chow hall. They're getting a freaking sad ass freaking soggy ass sandwich in a box of crayons. And hey man, well, we're gonna figure it out. We got this freaking PowerPoint presentation. We're gonna kick this freaking history class because we can't go anywhere. And this is all these freaking four walls. You can't go outside, you can't do nothing because you cannot have any sort of interaction to mitigate that COVID gets spread out, right?
Gosh, damn.
and, and guess what? Like, us, the drill instructors, you think like we're freaking monsters and we're immune? Oh fuck no, man! I got hit with COVID twice,
Damn, dude.
and guess what, bro?
Damn.
Like, and does that stop me? No. Like, yeah,
Nah.
if you were responsible, right? If you're a responsible hat, quote unquote hat, yeah, you would say like, hey, I got COVID, and they would send you back to your house, and you're quarantined to your house in 2 weeks, and then that team gets affected, and it's only like the senior drill instructor and another hat with like 40 or 50 kids. But if you want to be like any other Marine, like, hey, I'm sick, I feel like shit, but I don't want to let my team down. I'm just gonna suck it up. So you got freaking hats pounding out freaking energy drinks, freaking fat burner pills, and everything else to look semi decent, like there's nothing wrong with you while you're getting fucked up with COVID.
Gosh, damn, bro. That's like I said. That's just something that most people don't have to deal with during training or never experience because this is something unique that I think our nation's ever faced, at least during our time, for sure.
And I'll say this much, man. It was rough, man. It was rough. It was only rough for the recruits and the drill instructors, man. It was rough on the families too, man.
Oh, I
My
bet.
kids not seeing me 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. There was a running joke at home like, oh, he's just a visiting parent, right? I'm just
Yeah.
here to, I got my kids on the weekends or something like that. Uh, it was rough, man. It was rough. COVID was really rough, and people do not understand how much the hats that were there for the whole COVID, and think about it too. The whole training schedule changed because now we're the leaders were thinking like, how do we mitigate the effects of COVID? You know, we got the kids stuck there for 2 weeks, but we still want to do a 13-week training. So where do we cut? And then they're like, okay, well, instead of having 2 weeks, we'll do 1 week. Okay, well, and we did that. We did that. We did 1 week, and that fucked everything up because the kids didn't get their uniforms on time. So
Did they keep the platoons more separated too during training? Because I know a lot of times when we go out and do like, go out to the dojo or whatever they call it, and we go out there and do our like the whole
yes, so
martial art portion. We'd all go out there, like all four platoons or whatever that made up the company, and we'd all train together. Did they start
so
separating you guys more?
so here's like some again, it was very hit from the pocket, right? So for example, the classrooms were one seat yes, one seat no, as far as sitting down. I know for some PT events it was more widespread. I know for a certain time, for the IST, and this is just so only for the IST, the recruits were doing, or the civilians were doing crunches on themselves. Like, no one was holding their legs; they would just put their legs up in the air and they would just do the crunches themselves. Just to mitigate anybody getting sick, and it was a really weird dynamic,
Yeah,
really
man.
freaking weird.
Dang,
Um,
that's just something again you got to adapt and overcome, right?
yeah, so it was really weird. I know I did some changes for testing as far as like, I definitely, I took a course on Lean Six Sigma out there on the depot, and I definitely had to apply like, hey, the way how we're going to do testing to mitigate is that we're going to have to do like this, like, well, this half of the platoon is doing like the oral portion, the other half is doing the written portion. Then we're going to swap, and I'm telling you, man, like the when they say that the depot, like, it's the epitome of leadership, like, no joke, it was the epitome of freaking leadership. Like, we adapted and overcame to be able to still make the mission, and make the best quality Marines that we had within our capabilities that we had. And it was, uh it sucked at the time. I'm grateful that I got to experience it, because I got, mad brownie points to talk shit to other hats about it. Especially like doing like back-to-back cycles. Like, now a lot of drill instructors can say like, hey, hey, we're doing this week, graduating, and the next week we're going back at it again, and that fucks you up mentally too, because at least with those breaks it allows you to rewind a little bit, and you can go back and treat like civilians and build them back to become Marines, instead of like, hey, I just did dismiss these kids and now you're blasting these civilians that don't know your commands, but you're so used to dealing with, brand new Marines, and they're like really quick at doing the stuff, to back to these civilians that have no clue of what you're telling them to do. You're like, bops off your body, ready to move, and they're like looking at you like with deer in headlights, like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you talking to me about, dude? I don't even understand.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
It's so weird. It's so weird, man. But I'm still grateful for the experience, nonetheless.
No shit, dude. You know what? I mean, I got much respect. Like I said, I don't think you guys probably get as much respect as you guys are due, because, like I said, you guys are training all types of badasses that come through there, from the guy that's, the paper pusher, to the guy who's the grunt, who's out there on the front lines. So you guys
And,
have every single piece of swinging dick and other and females that come through there now.
and,
It's
and
amazing.
it's like why I tell my kids, right? And usually I tell this like, final drill, as a J. I would take them out there, right? And I would step on the yellow footprints before we go to do final drill, and I told them like, I'm training you guys to be my replacement, right? Like,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I
Hmm.
want you to have my kids to grow up in a better America, and you guys are going to be the ones responsible for it. You
Yep.
are the ones responsible to protect their liberties and America's interests, so that my kids can have a better future. And man, that should I would say that to the recruits, and that would fucking sink in, man. That
Yeah.
would sink in, man. Like, for
It
real.
does. That resonates. I mean, because they all come from from their family, and a lot of them are away from their family for their first time. And
It
so it definitely probably resonates with them when you start
oh,
putting you. That makes you more of a human to them too.
yeah, there are certain aspects, like, like, you're like this mean drill instructor and whatnot, but sometimes, depending on your role, right? It's not saying like the brand new Bobo comes out there and be like, oh, I'm going to, sit here and mentor you, and like, no,
Yeah,
dude,
like
no,
Kimasabi.
because,
Yeah, nah.
yeah, some shit happens, and then, the senior drill instructor can't come down and save your ass because you decide that you want to do the daddy role. But there are instances, that, especially if you have a role like the senior, obviously you have to be more of a human, the drill instructor, but the J, right? That big brother, the one that teaches drill and everything else, when he pulls, the hat back a little bit and becomes a little bit of human, and it's like, hey man, this is the reason why we do this shit. And the reason why, and they're like, fuck man, like, this shit hits home, right?
Yep.
It really does hit home. And especially like all these kids come from different ways of life, man. Different ways of life. You got the ones that are coddled
Oh, you
with their
see it all, I'm
moms,
sure. I'm see.
and you got yes, I'm telling you, man, you got the kids that are straight up thugs that want to throw hands with you,
Oh yeah,
and you
dude. They
and
all make it to the fleet at some point in time. You
yeah,
know what I
and
mean?
it's crazy, man. It's crazy, man. Like, all ways of life. And how I was telling you earlier, you got kids that have never picked up a broom, and this is one of my favorite stories. Being a hat, I had a kid that didn't know how to do laundry, and because he didn't know how to do laundry, he was hoarding uh soiled silkies in his footlocker
Oh no.
for 6 weeks. Six
Ooh.
weeks.
Ooh.
All right, so let
The
me tell you about
stench.
this, right? Let me tell you about this story real quick. It's a week of final drill, right? It's the week of final drill, and I told the squad leaders like, hey, make sure that the squad has all the freaking money value backs, especially this one recruit. And they're like, all right, good, you know, good to go. The squad leaders go, and then all of a sudden I just hear that this recruit has something to report. I'm like, what?
Oh shit.
And like open the hatch from the duty hut, and this my squad leader says like, this recruit needs to report that recruit so and so's fucking footlocker. We found the recruit's money value bag, and the recruit footlocker's full of freaking shit. And he lifts his hand, and I shit you not, his hand is covered in shit.
Oh, oh, oh
And
no, bro.
I am like, what the fuck, right? And this is my third cycle. So I come out there, and this is like back when it was allowed, because now it's not allowed to flip foot lockers. But I come up there, and I look at the kid, and I grab that foot locker, and I freaking toss it. And bro, and when I tell you that there was like little, like we call in good Spanish, mojoncitos, little shit rolls coming down, bro, and it stank up the entire squad bay. And I was
Oh,
like, there's no
fuck
fucking way.
no, man.
And I'm telling you, we got 30, and I got 30 minutes to hit evening BDR, the whole inspection and everything else, and set up the house. And I'm like, what the fuck? All right, I'm looking around. The recruits are all looking at me, and they're frozen up, and they're like looking at this interaction, like, what the fuck's going on? This shit's fucking odd and awkward. And like, I see a couple other faces that are like biting their lips because they don't want to fucking laugh because this shit's fucking funny. And I'm like, I just walk back to the duty hut. I see my Jay in there. I'm like, Jay, yo, recruit so and so is fucking shit's fucking full of shit. He's like, what? I just need you coming down here. He's like, yeah, just run BDR. All right, cool. So I go back in my role, right? Like nothing ever's happened, right? Fucking military bearing. So I'm running my shit, and all of a sudden I hear zero, and I'm like, oh shit. And then my Jay, he's from South Carolina, freaking 5'2" black dude, hilarious as fuck. He's like, recruit so and so. Why? And he just looks at the floor. He's looking at the deck, and he looks at the recruit. He's like, why? Just why? And then he goes back inside this duty hut. And now I'm looking at the other recruits, and they're like now like I have like half of the platoon biting their lips because the guy's pretty funny, and like it's like an awkward silence. I'm like, all right, fuck it. So I keep on going. I'm doing my shit, and then again I hear zero recruit so and so. Why the fuck would you fucking be taking your shit inside your freaking thing? And the freaking kid's like, I'll go like, mom, recruit doesn't know, sir. And it's like, now I see, just start looking around, and now I see the recruits, there's tears coming out because they're holding everything in their life to not fucking laugh,
Oh shit.
right?
Yeah, not lose their bearing, man. They don't
Not
want
to
to get
lose their bearing because
smoked.
they knew that I was going to fuck them up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just continuing doing my thing, right? And all of a sudden, all I just hear is a belt just freaking fly to the armory locker, right? And my Jay comes out, throws his cover, and he just charges straight to the recruit. And he just started blasting him like, you lost your rabbit ass fucking mind. And starts fucking blasting him. And I'm like, fuck it. I start fucking up the deck. Like, Ty, all you back down, ready to move. And I start blasting this kid. And then all of a sudden, the serious commander comes on deck. And he
Oh
calls zero.
shit.
And then we all
No.
stop. And then he's like, Drill Instructor, go over here. And then we start explaining like everything that's going on. Like, hey, we found this kid with blah, blah, blah. And, he asked like everybody go back online. And then it was so fucking hilarious, this part, because like the serious commander then asked like, hey, how many know that recruit so-and-so had soiled himself and was shitting inside his freaking footlocker? And like half the platoon raises their fucking hands, right? And
Oh
then
no
you always
shit.
know that there's a snitch in every platoon, right?
Yep.
So the snitch platoon, this motherfucker just out of line. He's like, and by the way, he freaking shit himself during the freaking hike. Bro, at that point when he said that shit, the whole entire platoon just bust out fucking laughing. My
Everybody
Jay has
lost
to
their
walk out
shit.
of the fucking
Oh
thing
no,
like,
bro.
what the fuck? And I look at this
Um.
recruit, and I'm like,
Oh
I start
gosh.
zeroing out the deck. I look at this kid in amaze because if you recall anything about the hike for down in MCRD, the first hike you do the hike and then you have to do like 2 hours of McMap. So I look at this kid is like, so this was on Saturday because it's the only hike that we've done. So what you're telling me that you freaking shot yourself during the fucking hike, and then after that, you decide to do 2 hours of McMap and not say anything. Yes, sir. Damn, your
Oh
asshole must have
my
been really fucking
gosh.
raw. Icing
Holy
it out.
fuck. He's oh, dude. Oh, bro, that's disgusting, man. I can't believe. I mean,
So,
I knew dudes that pissed themselves but shit themselves and
bro,
keep
I'm
it in
telling,
his fucking Foot Locker, bro.
bro, it
Dude.
it it stank.
How the
So,
fuck did he not think he was not going to get caught for that, man? And I
well,
mean, how many times do you think he shit in that thing? How fucking full was it?
well, here's the thing. Like every week, he would go to the PX to buy brand new skivvy shorts, and I knew
Ah,
there was something smelling because sometimes when you notice like drill instructors are walking around between the aisles, there's probably something that stinks, and they're going around. And this is the part that I hate about the job, right? Is like you're going around sniffing like freaking mattresses, see which one is the one that really stinks because maybe someone pissed themselves, right? But I couldn't tell like where the freaking odor was coming from. Yeah, alone, I would think like someone was taking a fucking dump in their Foot Locker. And the reason why, like, we asked the kid, like, why did you not take your shit and just throw it away in the trash can? And he's like, well, he was embarrassed. He didn't want no one to find out. I was like, half the platoon fucking knows. Like, what the fuck? And then he's like, why didn't you fucking wash it? And he's like, I don't know where the laundry room is at. Like, the recruits go there every fucking night to clean their fucking shit. Like, how do you not know? This recruit doesn't know. And we just told the series command, like, we gotta drop this kid. Like, I don't care. Like, we need to drop this kid. He's like, oh, I don't know if it's if we're able to. And I'm like, sir, I'm going to tell you right now, if we don't drop this kid right now, he's going to make it become a Marine. And imagine this Marine deploys and goes on a mute on a ship. Imagine how bad it's going to be on the ship. And then he looks at me. He's like, at that time I was a sergeant. He's like, Sergeant Cruz, you have a valid point. Yep. Let's figure this out. And we're like, all right, cool. And we were able to talk to medical. They're like, hey, we got you, fam, and we're able to drop the kid, man. But yeah,
wow, that's fucking disgusting, man. I can't believe that.
I'm telling you, man. We were lucky to get that one, and that's without including like the kids that slide through the cracks. And
Oh my
that's
gosh.
actually it's funny because uh, not in regs on their page they just posted a picture of this one kid getting CS gas, and as soon as I hear the kid screaming, I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. And I look at the freaking video, and there it is. The one recruit that slid through the cracks that I asked and begged that we drop them, and the company would not drop him because of COVID. And there he is in full blast on not in regs. And I'm telling you,
Oh,
like,
how ironic, dude.
how ironic. And it's like I'm looking at it, I'm getting flashbacks of him in the Crucible, and where I'm telling like the company commander and everyone else, like, we need to drop this kid. It's like, we can't, like the fleet needs bodies to feed. Like, we cannot drop this kid because he just like I mean, he passed the range and passed the WIMP wall and passes PFT and CFT. Like, I'm like, this kid cannot. She's just curled up in a ball. He's crying because he cannot pick up the same dude that's his same body weight. He cannot fire carry him. He's like, well, like, it's those restrictions from COVID, right?
Yep.
And yeah, and
Gosh
sadly,
damn.
right?
Crazy.
Uh, it's crazy, man. It is crazy.
It
Like,
is crazy.
that kid. So, funny story about that kid. So that kid was supposed to be dropped. I don't know how he's in the Marine. I'm going to be honest. During initial drill, because he was part of another platoon. Um, After initial drill, he completely butchered initial drill, where they said left face, and then this kid did right face, and then decided to, in his own mind, hurt forward march. So he starts walking off the parade deck during initial drill. So you can imagine all the drill instructors are watching this. Well, for everyone else, it's hilarious, except for that unit leader that's watching this shit.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
like, the one that does initial drill is a brand new kill hat in the team. So you can imagine how embarrassed he
Oh
is. He's like, I'm
no.
about to fucking murder this freaking platoon, right? So they go in back to the house.
Oh,
He's
they
fucking up the
definitely were
house and
gonna go
whatnot.
get
And he has
smoked
a
at the
freaking,
pit.
yep. And no, and he has this one kid. He's just standing there. He's just standing there in the middle of the freaking quarter deck, just watching the entire platoon getting fucked up, right? Because he was the one responsible, and this kid takes upon himself, grabs one of the rifles, and starts beating his face with the rifle. And automatically, what you think in your head, well, it's self-harm. So guess what? He's going to get dropped, right? Send him to medical. Medical, and their infinite wisdom says like, nah, he's good. Kid's good. Send him back to training.
Oh man, because he probably went in there and tried to act like he was all good.
So he can't be in that platoon anymore. So they have to send him cross deck. But however, that cross deck had COVID, so he couldn't go to that platoon. So they sent him to us. That we were the 1 out of 2 platoons that were healthy.
Oh shit.
Because the other 4 platoons had COVID, and we're like, fuck me, man. Like, fuck me. Like, this kid, I'm telling you, like, for the recruits in that platoon, like, they will remember that kid. Like he was, the stress reliever for the platoon, because this kid was like beyond fucked up. He could not do an about face to the rear to save his life, right? And every time he would IT, it was great to IT him, man, because every time you would IT him, he would put his face to the dirt and then take a gulp of freaking dirt and put him in his mouth. So anytime you would bring him back inside the house, he would look like he got like super fucked up. But reality, like, the kid could only do like 3 push-ups during the whole entire IT session, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and then he was, he would squeal or high pitch scream, like
They still got the
if you didn't know
PCP
any better, you
platoon,
would think
pork chop platoon.
huh?
They still got pork chop platoon.
No,
They
man,
send
no.
if you like say you couldn't you weren't good at doing the mile and a half run the first time or whatever,
Well,
you
yeah,
weren't making the time, and then they would
so
send you to that platoon, which we called it back in the day, which was like I forgot what the actual term
yeah,
was. We called it pork
PCP,
chop
right?
platoon.
So
Yeah.
yeah, PCP, but now but that's for the ones that are not in training, and this kid's already in training.
Yeah.
He just really sucked, right? So uh, we had like this whole, like, he wasn't passing swim qual, and we thought that we were going to be able to drop him because he was not passing swim qual. But this other drill instructor that drill instructors love to play games, right? And sometimes drill instructors like to sabotage other platoons, right? And we were like the leading
No way.
platoon at that time, so they're like, "Oh, don't worry, I got you, fam. You know what? I used to work at the pool. I'll make sure every single recruit passes." I'm like, "No, dog, we don't need this recruit to pass. All right, this one's going to be 100% legal." That he feels like, "Nah, man, I got this, man. You don't want to drop recruits, man." I'm like, "Bro, do not do this to us, bro. I swear to God, I will fuck up your platoon if you do this to us." Like, "I got you, fam." Goes that Friday, right? The last Friday for qual day. Comes back, every single motherfucker freaking qualifies, even that freaking recruit. And he comes in with a smile. I'm like, "I
Shit
told
and
y'all,
grin, you
I'm gonna make sure
motherfucker.
everybody passes." I'm like, "Fuck you, dude. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You did this on fucking purpose." And he was just laughing, right? He was just laughing because he knew what he was doing. Because
Fucking good
that
old
would take us
Marine.
out. Yeah, that would take us out of the freaking competition for final drill, right? Because we were the platoon to beat. Um, and so now we go into academics. Uh, I could have been a real dick because I was telling you that I worked at AIP, and I start from the very bottom, and I was the head honcho, the chief in there, for my time that I was on quota. So I still had like all my permissions. I was like, I could do some real illegal shit and just change it, but I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not gonna do shit, right? Um, and let it be. At this point, we're on week number 5. We're on week number 6. So fuck it. If he passes, like, cool. If he doesn't pass, cool. So he passes, right? Because other than he's really deficient physically and everything else, he's actually a smart kid. He's just everything else. He just sucks, right?
Dang. Yeah.
Uh,
That's
then
rough.
we go, and I actually have a TikTok video on that. And this is like the portion that everybody's waiting for, part 2, which I guess you get the exclusive on it, right? So part 2, we go to up north, right? And we're just fucking this kid up, man. We're fucking him up on Brown Saturday and just messing this kid up. And he will not quit, man. He won't quit. He's too dumb to quit. And I'm like, all right, I'll give him that. So we make it to, everybody's worried. All the hats, all the other recruits are worried because he's really not very. Uh, I don't know, man. He has 2 left feet, 2 left hands. Like he's just, I don't know. His low motor skills are just not there.
Damn.
And I tell the coaches like, hey, man, I made a bet with all the other drill instructors, man. So I need, for the life of me, I need you two coaches to just stay on this kid. Don't worry about the other recruits. Just you two stay on him. Like I will get you both a 30 rack of beer if this kid can make it to become an expert shooter. And no
Speak
shit,
beer to
man.
a Marine, bro. They'll make some shit happen.
Bro, I'm telling you, like this kid would be about to flag, and they would grab this kid's fucking muzzle, like drop fucking, like shove this kid's fucking head to the fucking floor. Like they made sure that this kid was not a fucking safety risk for absolutely fucking anyone. And the kid ended up shooting up fucking expert, man.
Damn.
I'm like, every drill instructor, even the chiefs came up to me like, "Are you? Hold on, did he get like? Yup, he got expert." He's like, "There's no fucking way." I'm like, "Hey, we trained to make the fucking best fucking product. Don't fuck with me, man. Like, you know what? You gave me a fucking piece of shit. Then I'm gonna make the best product I can out of it, right?"
Nice.
The coaches came in. I gave them both a freaking 30 rack. Like, you guys are the fucking bomb. Like, you are like so not appreciated, but I fucking appreciate the fuck out of you guys. He's like, man, you know what? You drill instructors, you guys are cool as shit. I'm like, yeah, man, we're all here for this. We're here for the recruits. Yeah, yeah, And then we make it up to for field week, bro. Field week. This man, this kid was struggling. All the hikes. He was the last recruit out of the entire company, like broken off, bro, broken off for every hike. And we make it finally for the Crucible. And I shit you not, for every event at the fucking Crucible, he quit. Every event.
You fucking nah.
I There's this one event, and I love the Crucible. It's like one of my, it's my favorite part of the whole experience, right? There's this event called the ID lanes, right? That they made it very immersive. So the ID lanes, uh, they're walking around, they're doing their patrol in this like little Motown, and then ID blows up, right? Someone gets hit with white powder on the chest, loud booms, and then there's a freaking a 240 just freaking shooting at the recruits. So now they have to suppress the enemy fire, and then anyone that's injured, get them out of the freaking kill zone, and then medevac them. So fire carry when whoever's injured to the LZ, so they're all evacuated, which is like possibly like a quarter of a mile or half a mile to take them from point A to point B, right? So this recruit, he was the person in charge of the event, right? So shit's popping off, and the drill instructors are kicking stress to him, like, recruit so and so, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like people are dying. What are the commands? Like, what are we doing? And he's stressing out, and he's starting to cry, like he doesn't know
Oh
what to do, right?
shit.
And like he's like, I honestly think like he
Buckling
has,
under pressure.
yeah, like, well, honestly, I think like he has something mentally, because every time there was like a loud noise, he would cover his ears, like the loud noise would bother him.
Oh yeah,
So
dude.
I really think like there's something underlying medically, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose. But there's
My
definitely something off.
autistic kid does that stuff, dude, to be honest with you.
So
So yeah.
yeah, I really believe that there's something there, but obviously I can't diagnose. So
Right.
we're kicking stress to this kid, and you could see like the eyes are just dimming in, right? And then he just pulls into the fetal position and starts crying, right? And we're like, oh my fucking god, there's no fucking way. So we've assigned someone else as a team leader, and we're like, hey man, this is all you gotta do. This is the one that died in front of you. You get to carry him, and it's your same freaking way. We're not putting 100, 200 pounds extra. It's your same weight. He could not pick this kid up. He could not.
Damn.
And then it's the time for the Reaper hike. This kid was the very last recruit to make it up the hill. Like, it was so bad that they were like, you know what, just put your pack inside the freaking truck and just make your way up there, man.
See,
Just put
man,
your
in at some point in time, those kind of guys could be really bad for you in combat. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
and here's the sad part, right? Because I was very frustrated, right? When I was like, hey, he shouldn't be a Marine. This is going to cause a lot more harm. They're like, hey, COVID, nutrition. I'm like, all right, man. Like, you guys, I'll follow suit for whatever y'all want, but I think this is a bad idea, man.
Right.
I'm finally off graduation. I'm all out my way off the depot at this point, and I receive a video, right, from one of the recruits, because obviously at the end of the cycle, they want your contact info and whatnot. So I get 2 videos sent, and I look at the video, and it's the NCT squad bait. I see this fight between two junior Marines. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And when I notice, it's the same recruit that's getting his fucking the shit beat out of him.
Oh shit!
And I'm like,
Damn.
what the? And I'm like, ask like, why the fuck are you guys recording this shit? He's like, oh, I thought you wanted to see this. I'm like, no, this is fucking dumb. Delete this shit. Then I took the shit. I went back down to the company, and I showed like all the seniors that were there, and the guy that I told him like, hey, you thought it was fucking funny to pass them all. This is all on you, dude. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, that kid is going to have a rough time in the fucking Marine Corps because we allowed him to fucking pass through the freaking pipeline. Look, he's
Yeah.
getting his shit beaten out of him in MCT. And now, look, like, I just saw last week, there's a video of him on fucking, on 9 regs right now. So, and that's the thing, right? And then we want to preach about mental health and everything else, that's going to be on that one, we could have stopped that. So
Yep.
one day out of the blue, report like, hey, a Marine decides to off himself because he was either being bullied or harassed, like that could have been avoided. Not everyone, like everyone might have the dreams and everything else, but
Not everybody's cut out for it, man. I mean,
not
honestly,
everyone's cut out, right?
I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it does take a special person. I mean, the Marine Corps in general is just not for everybody. You know what I mean? And you see that day in day out. There's probably guys in there. You're like, my gosh, because I mean, there's a part when eventually, when there's combat and someone's got to have that in them. And some of these guys, if they're just sitting there freezing up and they can't pick up a guy when someone's down, because we never leave a Marine behind, you know, there's definitely, I'm sure you guys come across that all the time, and it's probably a hard thing, but there's definitely got to be that decision like, hey, you know what, man, he's actually going to be more critical to the mission than actually helping the mission itself.
Yeah.
So
It's sad to say, man, and and there's kids that you drop, and you definitely you want to make him a Marine, right? I had this one kid, McCutcheon. It still pains me that we had to drop him, right? He had this infection in his ear, and we were about to go up north, and we couldn't take him with us, right? So we had to drop him. And then sadly, when we dropped him, uh, he was one of my squad leaders, man. He was like one of those go-to recruits, super motivated, wanted to become a Marine. And when I come back from up north, and I go down to MRP to go visit this kid, see how he's doing, I find out like, hey, no, he's been separated. I'm like, what
uh,
do you mean he's been separated? He was just only sent down here to check on his fucking ear, his ear infection. Like, what happened? Well, no, like he said the magic words. I'm like, what? There's no fucking
uh,
way. There's no fucking way. Like, no, like, well, like he received a letter and he was like super depressed. And that sucked, man. Like that fucking
that one hit
sucked.
you. Yeah.
That one hit me like out of everyone that we've dropped. Like that fucking hit me like a fucking freight train, man. And I still keep in contact with this kid. Like I found him on TikTok, and he still hits me up, man. Like he has like,
Well, that's cool.
even though he got dropped, he has that fucking mad respect for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I have that mad respect for him too as well. It fucking sucks. Like that was one kid that I wanted to see become a Marine.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's always, we always say like, yeah, I'll fucking slay him and let's drop as most kids as
There's the
possible.
ones you don't want to go through, and then there's some of those guys you like, damn, man, I really wanted that guy to make it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
you hear some of these stories, man. Like a lot of these stories of these kids, like man, there's so many freaking stories, man. I had this
I
one
know.
kid,
This
uh,
dude, I imagine.
I had this one kid, Royal. He was the man of his house. I don't remember. I don't recall what specific about his dad, but he was there helping out his mom and his two little girls, right, man? Usually like while we're in the pits, I would ask him like, "Hey, why did you join the Marine Corps?" And he tells me his story, man, and that was impactful, man. If you think recruits don't have an impact on drill instructors, some of the fucking stories that they say, man, it's like, man, like I have fucking respect for you, man. Like that shit's honorable as fuck,
Yeah,
you
no
know.
shit. I bet, dude. I
Uh,
bet there's a lot of great stories from you, man. I mean, you have a unique, you know, dealing with every single guy that faces kind of going into the Marines. Like I said, from the toughest kid to the kid that is, first time away from home, or probably didn't have a lot of friends. You have all kinds of mixes that you've had to deal with. I'm sure me and you could probably talk all night, but why don't we make a part two of this? Because
yeah.
I definitely would like to continue our conversation. Um, I think we only touched basically you being a drill instructor. There's a whole life after being a drill instructor for you. I would like to touch with and set up another time with you, buddy. But for now, we'll just go ahead and cut it out of here. Right now, we're almost at 100 minutes.
Oh my god, it feels
but
like yesterday.
hell yeah, dude. I appreciate you though taking out the time, man, and coming on. I really do. I know you're a busy guy. I'll get in contact with you after this and schedule a different time we can record again for like a part two and get into some of your like what you've done after being a drill instructor.
Oh, absolutely, man, and thank you for inviting me, man. It's
Absolutely.
I love running my suck, so yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate your time, man. We'll be in touch.
All right, man. Have a good one, man.
All right, Cesar. We'll talk to you
All right, see you, man.
later.